Hi folks, today what I'm going to show you is how to do a color tone print. And there's a couple supplies that you're going to need in order to make this possible. So one of them is to actually grab the toner. Now the toner is going to be located in my sink area, and later on I'll show you exactly where, but it's going to be on the left hand side right above the left hand sink. And you'll notice it's blue because it's, first of all, got the blue coloring all over, but it also is labeled blue color tone. The other option that you're going to have is actually a brown color tone, and brown actually comes out looking kind of copperish, almost like a sepia tone, with a little bit more of a reddish highlights or reddish tints to them. Alright, the other supplies you're going to need, depending on the color, if you're going to use one color, you'll need one tray to pour the color in, and then you're going to want a washing tray that is just full of complete and total water. Alright. Lastly, you're going to want to make sure that you have the set of tongs. Now I'm going to label these tongs for blue and brown, and I will keep them right with the color toning. But the trays are going to stay in the same place. Okay, just please keep in mind that any of the supplies you bring out to your table, you will be responsible for cleaning up. So I would say give yourself at least 5 minutes for cleanup time to make sure everything's properly put back in the right containers. Also, when you're pouring chemicals back, please make sure that you guys pour it right back into the container that it came from, and for that you're going to want to use a funnel to do that. Just make sure the funnel gets rinsed and then set back up on the shelf so that others can use it. Alright, so what I'm going to start by doing is not a full print. I'm going to grab some of the test strips that I pulled of my daughter earlier on. For this project, I want you guys to pull a complete and total new print. Hang on to all your test strips and any copies of prints just in case you have a change of heart in terms of the color. Alright, so to get started, I'm going to take my blue toner. I'm just going to do blue just to show you what it looks like. Brown is just going to have a different effect. And I'm going to carefully take off my lid or container. Now before I take this off and pour it into the container, one thing I'm going to do is actually stick my daughter's face in. That way it's completely and totally on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pour my chemical. Now you will probably most likely not need to use the entire bottle of chemical, because the tray is kind of small and shallow. So if there's somebody else that wants to do a tray of blue, they can. But I would encourage you guys, you can fit multiple test strips in here, but I would say do not put more than one print in at a time, because you don't want prints overlapping. And you can see that the color is already starting to change. Now here's a couple factors you should know about the blue toning. Alright, blue toning works relatively fast when it's fresh. So if I pulled this out right now, alright, you can already see the difference in her color tones. The other thing I'm going to say is that blue color toning has a tendency to add more contrast. It'll blow out your highlights a little bit more, and it'll make your darks look a little bit darker than before. So if you have a print that's kind of a muddy grayish tone print without a lot of contrast in, blue will really kind of do wonders for it. Now if I left this in longer, it's just going to really heighten the contrast of this. So I'm not going to leave it in that much longer. There is no exact time. It just really depends on the solution and you watching it. So when you put it in, it's kind of like dyeing an Easter egg. You pull it out when you feel it's ready. I find that most color tone prints don't really need much more than 2 minutes, and after that they're pretty much done developing. But you really got to keep your eye on the blue. So I'm going to let that drip and then carefully move it into my next bath, which is just water. Okay. Now for this, I'm actually going to go in, this is fresh and clean water, and I'm going to take my hands and gently rub the print just so that I don't get any streaks. Especially with the blue, if you don't clean your print properly, what'll happen is it'll start to stain the white to become like a yellowish, ugly color tone. So what I'm going to do really right now is carefully wipe it off. Now this bath is going to start to get dirty over time. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take it into the sink area, and I'm going to rinse it with fresh clean water and do the same thing and rub it. If you have yellow stains on your print in areas that it's supposed to be white, for example highlights, you will get points off. So be really cautious as to how you care for your print. Okay, so the next mission would honestly be to just take my full print, throw it into the bath and keep an eye on it and take it out when it's ready to come out. But before I do that, I wanted to talk to you guys about the concept behind verification borders. Now with verification borders, the idea with it is that you still want the verification border to stay intact. And for this, I'm actually wanting you guys to keep the verification border itself nice and black. And also, you want the edges to stay nice and white. So what I've done to my verification, and you might be able to actually see this if you look closely at it, is I applied a resist to the outside of the black border. That way it stays completely black. And in order to do that, what I use is this stuff right here. It's rubber cement glue. Now you can use the Elmer's rubber cement glue just as well, and it'll work just as fine. However, I have a whole container of this, and this stuff you can actually apply easily with a paintbrush. So just to show you really quickly, I had my paintbrush here. I had a thinner one. There it is. Okay, just to show you really quickly, I'm going to take this stuff and I'm going to dab it with a paintbrush. All right, so I'm just adding and applying. Now, if I wanted to, let's say, leave like her lips completely uncolorized, I'm going to put a good healthy coating of this stuff right on the exterior of it. That way, when I dip it into the color toning solution, it'll completely resist. Now, it is key to let this stuff dry. It usually takes a good, probably I'd say about 5 minutes before it totally dries. But the nice thing about rubber cement is it's not a permanent glue, which means later on in life, this is going to dry up to be somewhat rubbery, and I can then go in and start to kind of actually wipe it off. So it's kind of a nice factor about this type of glue. So you're going to want to be really cautious if you're using your own paintbrushes to apply this stuff. I do have a couple brushes, but I am going to ask you guys, please do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Do a nice job with regards to cleaning those off, because I don't want my brushes to get uberly gluey and such. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my scrap print. I'll do the verification border in class with you guys to show you, but for this I'm gonna just go ahead and dump this right into my my little area. Now I got a little bit of blue stain on that. I don't know how I dripped that on, but I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in, and you guys will instantly see the blue will start to change its color, all except my area for the lips. Now I didn't let those lips dry as much, but I did have a spot over here that I painted about 5 minutes ago, so hopefully you'll be able to see it's in an area where the resist will actually pick it up. So I'm going to let this sit in here for a little bit. Be very cautious with the tinting materials, as if you get it on your clothes, it will more than likely stain your clothes permanently because it's a dye, very much like Easter egg dye or hair dye. Okay, I would recommend wearing gloves. These types of chemicals are not very, they're not like the darkroom chemicals. They're essentially like Easter egg dyes. However, if you don't want, something on your hand, or you don't want your hand turning blue, I completely understand. And you can start to see the area that's resisting. Okay, it looks kind of yellowish in nature, but eventually when I pull this out and clean off that area, you'll notice that that area just stayed completely and totally black and white. Up against the blue, it does have a tendency to look more like a yellowish print, but it's actually black and white. Okay, so that's how you would do a resist. And again, just make sure on verification borders that when you stick it into the solution, that you guys keep it nice and white. All right, so this brush, what I'm going to do now that it's got this goop on it, you can actually push it off with your fingers or just use a paper towel. Clean it off that way. Now this glue is a water-based glue, so it will wash up relatively nicely, but don't forget about the brushes, because I don't want a whole bunch of brushes that have rubber cement glue on it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these back. Okay, and I'd like to show you guys where I'm going to be storing the rubber cement glue, so if you'll follow me. Okay, rubber cement glue is going to be stored right in this cabinet here. Okay, and I'll have it set right there. I've got another container just below it. This top one is a little bit more fresh, so please be sure to share. All right, and then the color toning, since we're already back here, is going to be right above this sink, and you guys will see the color toning solution bottles will be right up above here with the brushes and the tongs for you guys to use, okay? But the trays, please make sure that when you guys wash the trays, you guys set them back here. I may make another tray for you guys that you guys can put your clean trays in, but please do me a huge favor and make sure you clean out the trays. All right, we have a couple people who are getting in this bad habit of leaving tanks behind, so please make sure if your tank is back here, guys, that you clean it out. And there's a couple, actually quite a few, that have gotten left in the buckets, so please make sure that you guys give yourself some time during class to go ahead and get that done. So we're going to go back. All right, take a look at my blue area. Okay, And I didn't rinse this, but you can kind of see, and it's a little harder, I guess, to see in print, but you can actually see the yellow is starting to change. I'm going to go ahead and move this over to a dry spot. And for the rubber cement, all you need to do is literally just pull it right off, and you can see it's got a little bit of a skin to it, but for the most part it'll leave areas rendered white or black and white that you want rendered black and white. So if you want to explore the possibilities of just doing a little bit of selective coloring, you can do it that way. Alright, you just gotta be sure. I can see areas on my daughter's face where I messed up the blue. I could always go back and apply the blue color tone with a paintbrush, but for the most part you do want to make sure that you apply that rubber cement really carefully around any areas that you want to keep regular. So alright, we are not going to be matting the color tone prints just yet, but I do want you guys to pull a full color tone print, and I ask that you please choose a print that is going to in some way be impacted by the color in a positive way. So for example, if you've got a print that may look somewhat more suited towards a blue tone, remember blue colors, coloring in blue has a tendency to emit certain emotions. For example, if you think about Picasso during his blue period, he essentially was feeling somewhat depressed and wound up making a lot of his paintings based off of that emotion or that feeling. I'm not saying that you necessarily need to make a print that's sad in any way. However, you do want to consider the connection between how blue can really affect and give it more of an icy or a distant type feel. Whereas a brown sepia tone print, which I haven't done yet, is going to give it more of a warmer feeling. Think of and consider Picasso during his rose period, where everything felt much differently for him. So consider the fact of how color is going to really impact the overall appeal and possibly even set some type of a mood for the photo. Alright, but try to choose a photograph that's going to in some way make some kind of connection between your color. Okay? Good luck on your assignment. I will hopefully see your work when it's done. Bye.